We're reading Stuart Little. This is chapter 15, which is the final chapter of the book, and it's called Heading North. Stuart slept under the canoe that night. He wakened at 4 to find that the rain had stopped. The day would break clear. Already the birds were beginning to stir and make bright sounds in the branches overhead. Stuart never let a bird pass without looking to see if it was Margalo. At the end of the town, he found a filling station and stopped to take on some gas. 5, please, said Stuart to the attendant, a man who looked at the tiny automobile in amazement. 5 what? He asked. 5 drops, said Stuart, but the man shook his head and said he couldn't sell such a small amount of gas. Why can't you? Demanded Stuart. You need the money and I need the gas. Why can't we work something out between us? The filling station man went inside and came back with a medicine dropper. Stuart unscrewed the cap of the tank, and the man put in 5 drops of gasoline. I've never done anything like this before, he said. Better look at the oil too, said Stuart, and after everything had been checked out and the money had been paid, the money had been paid, Stuart climbed in and started the engine and drove out onto the highway. The sky was growing brighter, and along the river, the mists of morning hung in the early light. The village was still asleep. Stuart's car purred along smoothly. Stuart felt refreshed and glad to be on the move again. Half a mile out of town, the road forked. One road seemed to go off toward the west. The other continued north. Stuart drew up alongside of the northern-bound road and got out to look the situation over. To his surprise, he discovered that there was a man sitting in the ditch, leaning against the signpost. The man wore spurs on his legs and also wore a heavy leather belt, and Stuart realized that he must be a repairman for the telephone company. Good morning, said Stuart in a friendly voice. The repairman raised one hand to his head in a salute. Stuart sat down on the ditch beside him and breathed deeply of the fresh air. It's going to be a fine day, he observed. Yes, the repairman agreed. It's a fine day. I'm looking forward to climbing my poles. I wish you fair skies and a tight grip, said Stuart. By the way, do you ever see any birds at the top of your poles? Yes, I see birds in great numbers, replied the repairman. Well, if you ever run across a bird named Margalo, said Stuart, I'd appreciate it if you would drop me a line. Here's my card. Describe the bird, said the repairman, taking out a pad and pencil. Brown with a streak of yellow on her bosom. Know where she comes from? Asked the man. She comes from fields once tall with wheat, from pastures deep in ferns and thistle. She comes from vales of meadowsweet, and she loves to whistle. The repairman wrote it all down briefly. Fields, wheat, pastures, ferns, and thistle. Vales, meadowsweet, enjoys whistling. Then he put the pad back in his pocket and tucked Stuart's card away in the wallet. I'll keep my eyes open, he promised. Stuart thanked him. They sat for a while in silence. Then the man spoke. Which direction are you headed? He asked. North, said Stuart. North is nice, said the repairman. I've always enjoyed going north. Of course, southwest is a fine direction too. Yes, I suppose it is, said Stuart thoughtfully. And there's east, continued the repairman. Once had an increasing experience on an easterly course. I once had an interesting experience on an easterly course. Do you want me to tell you about it? No, thank you, said Stuart. The repairman seemed disappointed, but kept his right on talking. There's something about north, he said, something that sets it apart from all the directions. A person who is heading north is not making any mistake, in my opinion. That's one way to look at it, said Stuart. I rather expect that from now on I shall be traveling north until the end of my days. Worse than that could happen to a person, said the repairman. Yes, I know, answered Stuart. Following a broken telephone line, I have come to some wonderful places, continued the repairman. Swamps where cedars grow and turtles wait on logs, but not for anything in particular. Fields bordered by crooked fences broken by years of standing still. Orchards so old they have forgotten where the farmhouse is. In the north I've eaten my lunch in pastures rank with ferns and junipers, all under bare skies with the wind blowing. My business has taken me into spruce woods on winter nights, where the snow lay deep and soft, a perfect place for a carnival of rabbits. I have sat at peace on the fragile platforms of railroad junctions in the north, in the warm hours and warmth and in the warm smells. I know fresh lakes in the north, undisturbed except by fish and hawk, and of course by the telephone company, which has to follow its nose. I know all these places well, and they are a long way from here, don't forget that. A person who is looking for something doesn't travel very fast. That's perfectly true, said Stuart. Well, I guess I'd better be going. Thank you for your friendly remarks. Not at all, replied the repairman. I hope you find that bird. Stuart rose from the ditch and climbed into his car, started up the road that led toward the north. The sun was just coming over the hill on the right. He peered ahead into the great land that stretched out before him. The way seemed long, but the sky was bright, and somehow he somehow felt he was headed in the right direction. The end. And if I were writing the book, he finds Margalo and they live happily ever after. Well, that's just me.